We all talk about how much digital technology is changing our world, but we could also say the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because throughout history, inventions have shaken up our way of life. And that's just what happened nearly 100 years ago to the Vancouver music scene.
In Vancouver, in the 1920s, there was a thriving music scene.
Approximately 45 different clubs and theaters held live dances across the city. In 1925, for example, Rudolph Valentino came up to Vancouver to judge a tango contest. Shortly after that, another theater in town held a 7-day Charleston contest.
Many bands had catchy names to try to get the big gigs.
The Soul Ticklers Orchestra, spelled S-O-L-E, Amanda Redfern and the Dominionettes.
Peppy personalities was their tagline. But the BC Musicians Union was struggling to embrace a new technology which could not be silenced.
In 1928, the first talkie came to Vancouver. By 1931, Pantange's Theatre, which was the biggest vaudeville/film theatre in Vancouver, had to close up shop and sold to famous players. Musicians that were working 7 nights a week were then reduced to working on weekends.
The BC Archives holds the entire run of the local union's publication from this period, BC Musician.
And they were a monthly journal, very strong advocates for protecting the profession as a union and as an organized profession. They usually took up 2 entire pages of just small size advertisements of all the different musicians in town looking for work in the 20s. And that slowly faded. By the 1930s, the BC Musician actually had to close up.
And as Frogner points out, history is repeating itself.
We see it all happening again today with the internet and digital technologies. People are claiming that live music is being sacrificed for the technology. The technology doesn't have the same sort of spirit and experience that a live performance does. I mean, all the same arguments that you'd heard in the 1920s when the musicians were losing their profession.
A profession that does live on at the Royal BC Museum and Archives.
This Week in History, brought to you by the Royal BC Museum, bringing British Columbia's stories together.